Why going on a pilgrimage or visiting holy places with high energy vortex can transform our life? What is the reason? Do everyone who visit those places go through a huge transformation or spiritual awakening? If no, why? What is the reason that some people go through a huge awakening and transformation, meanwhile some others do not go through big transformation? They might go through certain changes, but it's not big transformation. What is the reason? If you're interested with this topic, stay tuned till the end of the video. Hi, I am Radhika Lakshmanan. I'm a karma transformational guide and I help people to break their negative karmic patterns, heal their emotional wounds, and I teach advanced meditation as well. Now let's start. So, what is pilgrimage? Pilgrimage is about the journey to sacred places or holy places. Am I right? So, what is sacred place? So, a place can be sacred usually because it has a very high special vibration and has a higher level of life force energy, highly energetically charged, and it can be due to many reasons. Maybe some spiritual masters might have attained enlightenment in that particular place, so it is highly energetically charged. Or maybe it is a specially designed place for worshipping, so they might have conducted many sacred rituals there that have raised the vibration of that place or that have increased the life force energy in that particular places. It is energetically charged, or could be many other reasons as well. Now, usually pilgrimage, okay, the journey to those sacred places or holy places will have lots of obstacles, okay. The path to those sacred places and holy places usually will be a difficult one. You will have lots of challenges and obstacles on the path to that sacred places. It could be because it's a very long journey, or could be because that place in a deep forest, or because it is at a peak mountain. Okay, and the journey itself will be extremely difficult. For some, the pilgrimage could be life-threatening. It happened to me. I will share with you the story shortly if we have time. See, when a spiritual seeker goes on a pilgrimage, those obstacles and challenges on his path will help him to totally surrender to the divine intelligence and the existence. The mind, the ego, will realize its own limitation when it faces all those challenges on the path to those sacred places. So when the mind or ego realizes its own limitation and face a dead end, which means it's too difficult, the journey might be too difficult to the extent nothing can solve it. So the mind or ego has no other options other than totally surrendering to the divine intelligence. And the total surrender itself will lead to a huge spiritual awakening. The journey to that sacred place in itself will transform that true spiritual seeker. The journey itself will transform him and will shift his awareness. It will create some sort of huge shift in his awareness and lead to a big transformation. You have to understand something. The purpose of the pilgrimage is the journey, not the destination. The journey in itself will transform the spiritual seeker. Most of us always chasing after the destination, the goal, and we rarely enjoy the journey. So it's never about the destination, it's about the journey, it's about enjoying the journey, it's about being present in the journey. Usually, a pilgrimage is more about the journey. The journey will transform you more than the destination. And that is part of our spiritual awakening, spiritual path, spiritual lesson. And that's one of the reasons pilgrimages are very difficult, very challenging. It is specially designed for that, to challenge your ego and to help you to go through an ego death. Only if you go through an ego death, you will go through a huge spiritual awakening, self-realization. And you will be able to have a blissful, happy, peaceful life. Of course, not everyone who goes on a pilgrimage goes through a big transformation or shift in awareness or spiritual awakening. They might have some changes. They'll definitely have some changes in their body or mind, but it might not be a big transformation. Do you know why? Because the intention has to be pure. One needs to have a very pure, sincere intention to go through a huge transformation or spiritual awakening on a pilgrimage. They must be willing to face their own shadow aspect, willing to let go of their own sabotaging patterns, and willing to transform themselves, and willing to have an ego death. They must be sincere in their intention to be one with the divine intelligence. If someone is just going there just for a business transaction, like for example, if I visit your place, you have to give me X, or you have to give me Y, or you have to give me X, Y, Z. That's a business transaction. That's a normal prayers, right? You pray and you ask for certain wishes to be fulfilled. But pilgrimage is beyond that. It's not about business transaction. It's not about just having some wishes to be fulfilled. You might get some of your wishes fulfilled. Now, I would like to emphasize that you might get some of your wishes fulfilled. However, you might not go through a huge spiritual awakening or shift in awareness or enlightenment. Because the intention must be pure, to be one with the divine intelligence, to see the truth, to willing to transform oneself. You must be like, I'm willing to transform myself, divine. I'm willing to let go of my ego. I'm willing to let go of my sabotaging patterns, my stubbornness. I'm willing to let go of anything that doesn't serve me. So your intention has to be very pure. Otherwise, it's just going to be a trip, a nightmare trip, or just a trip with some challenges, or just a fun trip. Okay? So, during that journey on a pilgrimage, the mind will be challenged. Okay? The mind's comfort zone will be challenged. And its addiction to its pleasures and comfort zone will be challenged. Because the mind constantly wants to be in its comfort zone, constantly chasing after some pleasures and running away from so-called pain. When our mind is constantly running after a pleasure and running away from pain, it's always in tug of war. It's always resisting life. It's always in resistance. Constant stress. Constant stress. We are not living our life. We are just constantly chasing after pleasures and running away from pain. Constant tug of war. We constantly want to be in our so-called comfort zone. If you want to have some sort of transformation, you have to go beyond your comfort zone. So when you are on this journey, this pilgrimage, the mind's comfort zone The minds need to be constantly going after pleasures or constantly resisting pain will be challenged. So you will be forced to come out of the comfort zone. The mind will be challenged to come out of its own limitation. The ego will be challenged and will be forced to surrender to the divine intelligence. Once the ego surrenders, the divine intelligence will take over that particular spiritual seeker and will be one with the spiritual seeker. And when that happens, one either go through a spiritual awakening, spiritual transformation, spiritual progress, or even enlightenment. Sometimes a partial surrender is enough to go through a huge awakening. These sacred places that have been charged by enlightened masters, rishis, yogis, monks, ascended masters, spiritual teachers through meditation or sacred rituals. An enlightened master's presence or past presence in those particular places can create a deep, bigger bubble of presence, higher consciousness and higher life force energy that can help to activate our own presence and stillness. That can easily help us to get into a meditative state, that can easily help us to get into this deep stillness state. So try to meditate in those places. You'll easily get into a meditative state and stillness just like that. Because an enlightened master's past presence there and the high vibration there can easily affect your consciousness and create the shift in your awareness and can help you to get into this deep stillness and presence. Many of these places were specially designed to charge certain parts of your body and to activate some parts of your cells and brain that will shift your awareness, that will help you to move to a higher consciousness. So it can activate certain cells in your body, certain parts of your body and your brain, and can lead to a healing effect. I know many incidents where people were healed in those places. I've experienced it as well. I'll share with you shortly. So it will create a huge shift. It will balance your whole nervous system. Okay, so I would like to let you know another thing. Do not go to a holy place or a sacred place or a pilgrimage, especially on a pilgrimage. Okay, do not go on a pilgrimage just because it's a famous place, or just because everyone else are going there, or just because your friends, family, or somebody else has went there. Go on a pilgrimage when you are being called to go there, when it's part of your higher calling, your inner calling. And that's when a bigger transformation can happen in your life. Now you can visit those famous holy places and all those temples and places and worshipping places. However, it creates a bigger impact when it's part of your higher calling. Okay, I went for all the pilgrimages not because it's a famous place, not because my friends went there, but because it was part of my higher calling. And that's one of the reasons I went through a huge spiritual awakening and transformation. So go there when you're being called. You will feel the call. Another thing, so why do some people, earlier I mentioned about it, but we are going to get into a deeper details right now. Why do some spiritual seekers go through a huge spiritual awakening on a pilgrimage? Why some do not? I explained to you earlier, the intention has to be pure. Am I right? The intention has to be pure, the intention has to be sincere, to be one with the divine intelligence, to seek the truth, to let go of one's limitation patterns, to let go of anything that doesn't serve oneself. Number one. Number two, when you have a sincere intention, if you're a genuine seeker, you will be guided to a special point in that sacred place. A special point where other seekers can't see. I'll give you an example. For example, let's say there's a place called Place X, Mountain X. Place X might have a special point which is called as Point A. But nobody knows that. Nobody knows that. The true seeker will be naturally guided to be in that place. Consciously or unconsciously, they will reach that place. And there's when many higher activations will happen for that particular spiritual seeker. Nobody will know about it. Okay, so that particular spiritual seeker will be guided unconsciously or subconsciously to go to that particular point, to just simply stand there or to just simply take rest there, something along the lines. Not every place that we take rest is a secret point or sacred point, okay? This happens only to few people whose intention is very genuine and sincere, is part of their higher calling. This happened to me, okay? So few years ago, I went to India on a pilgrimage. I climbed a mountain, a sacred mountain there. I almost died there. Due to heat stroke. It was extremely challenging and I thought I'm going to be dead. I swear I thought I'm going to be dead. Okay? It was very challenging for our whole group. But you know what? Everybody left me because it was too hot for them. They left me and I was left alone at one spot. I was alone. I was feeling dizzy. I couldn't see anything. I almost died. I thought I'm going to die. I was screaming for help. Nobody could see me. Nobody could hear me. Okay, so 2 weeks after that, I went through a huge spiritual awakening and spiritual transformation. 2 or 3 years later, I got an Akashic record reading. You can Google it to know about Akashic record reading. I think we don't have much time. In that Akashic record reading, that psychic told me, she said, in this particular year, you went through a huge transformation, you almost died. And something was activated in your throat chakra during that time. She said, during that time, a golden cord was attached to your throat chakra for your higher purpose. It's part of your higher calling. An activation was done onto you at that particular place. A golden cord, she mentioned something like that. A golden cord was attached to your throat chakra because this is part of your higher calling. Communication is part of your higher calling. Teaching is part of your higher calling. I was shocked. I was taken aback because I didn't tell that psychic anything about this pilgrimage. And I told her, yes, I almost died on a pilgrimage few years ago. Okay, so these things are very real. And you know something? During that pilgrimage, right, I told you I almost died due to heat stroke. An immature person told me not to wear shoe. And I was so stupid and silly to believe her. She brought shoe or socks in her bag, but I was so stupid to listen to her not to wear shoe. It was extremely hot. Can you imagine how much I suffered? But you know something? Once that pilgrimage ended, there was no single wound or blisters in my feet. Not even a single wound. During that pilgrimage, right, it was very difficult for me to even walk because it was too hot and I stepped onto the stones, the small stones. It was very painful. But when I came down after that pilgrimage, I checked my leg. It was perfectly fine. But for another lady, she followed us. She was wearing a sport shoe. And she got huge blisters on her feet. So healing can happen. Okay? So let me know what you think about this issue. Have you been on a pilgrimage? What is your experience? Share with me. What do you think about this topic? Please share it with others because they need to know the truth about pilgrimage and these high sacred places. You can belong to any religion. That doesn't matter. Okay? So let me know what you think. If you like this video, please don't forget to give me thumbs up. Thank you.